Things like they're making the climate action incentive where people get a rebate. Really, the carbon price isn't about changing individual behavior. A lot of people frame it like that. Really, it's about changing corporate behavior and how people are planning around things. What's our energy supply going to look like? Basically, give people a rebate to offset the cost increases that they might see as a result of companies passing down cost increases. The price is rising. Some provinces that weren't part of the federal climate action incentive program, like Nova Scotia, they're actually going to be part of it now. So I like that the government of Canada, they put carbon pricing in place, and they've been really focused on actually how do we make it better, what's wrong with it, how can we fix those problems. Although really the best solution is a combination of both. You know, you put a tax on behavior you don't like, and you actually reward behavior you do like. That's the ideal situation. And the federal government now, they have to respond to the Inflation Reduction Act in the US. The Canadian federal government, they're saying, okay, businesses are coming to us and saying, we're going to go to the US because they got a bunch of incentives and you don't have them. So Canada's like, okay, we got to come out with some incentives. They can't match the US in terms of, you know, incentive per incentive, dollar for dollar. So they're focusing now on a couple industries where they think Canada can have an advantage. Big mistakes that I see a lot. One is going to be maybe not super surprising, is that people try and avoid paying for lawyers as much as possible. Where people have bad contracts that they got off the internet, they didn't know what they were doing, and you know, especially, this is a common thing, a Canadian company will get a contract off the internet that's really an American contract. It's kind of like famous last words. You don't want to be in a courtroom and somebody's like, why does your contract say this? And you have to be like, well, I got that contract off the internet. You know, that's not a good defense. I had one client who needed a contract for like a life cycle analysis. So if you're writing a contract regarding life cycle analysis, which for anybody who's not sure what that is, it's basically measuring what is the emission impact of a product over its lifetime. Or if a business does something, what's going to be the resulting emissions from their activities. If you're writing a contract like that, you got to understand what it's about. You got to understand how, you know, how we talk about emissions, that there are different kinds of emissions. Sometimes we talk about carbon emissions, but carbon emissions aren't the only emissions. So we have regulated programs in Canada, we have voluntary markets, there's a lot of controversy, here's how these things work, we have a report about it. You know, for clients to be able to hop on a call with a lawyer who really understands the sector, I think that's a big benefit to some clients. That their contracts and whatever they're doing looks the way that it should, in terms of making sure that it works the way it should, and that they're protected as much as they should be. In 2017, you know, basically right after the election, I started getting really involved in climate activism in New York, and I've continued that through to today. And I'll say, look, I learned a lot of things doing activism, and here's how you got to approach these things. I think that's how I make more of an impact, actually, not necessarily through the contracts and incorporate. So I think the federal government actually has put out a lot of good resources. They put out reports, they write up things on their website, they write in clear language often. So I think that actually there's a lot of stuff out there.